season's greetings, everyone. It's the spookiest spooky season of them all, and what better way to celebrate this time of thrills and chills than with horror films that came out and either bombed or no one watched, and that CorderyFX has never seen before. If this channel knows one thing, it's complaining about movies that came out of Hollywood made for lots of money that he will never see in his lifetime. And so, off to the spooky graveyard of cinema that Hollywood keeps filled every year with fresh cash grabs. Boo!
Kicking off the spooky specials, we have the Slender Man movie from 2018, which is like The Craft meets having your house burgled and you didn't find out till afterwards. Like, you don't know who's responsible. That's like Slender Man in this movie. You don't see him and then the movie's over before anything happens. There was one big thing I kept asking myself while watching this movie. Who was this movie made for? On the one hand, you would assume for Slender Man fans, because this has been a very, very popular character on the internet for a decade now, and you have a keen fan base right there waiting for a big screen adaptation. And on the other hand, is to bring in normies like me who are a bit familiar with Slender Man but haven't gone down that rabbit hole of lore and mythology. But I was assuming that I would learn more than I did watching this movie than what I knew before. I feel like I know less now. In fact, this movie just comes across as a rip-off of The Ring without anything going for it. You know this shot from the first Insidious movie? So yeah, this movie just does that a lot. Boring. So this movie starts off like The Craft, for goth or punk or outcast or misfit girls in high school. But instead of getting into witchcraft, they get into Reddit or the dark web, which is way more scary than witchcraft. They stumble upon a video that summons Slender Man, or by watching it targets them for slendering, you know, like The Ring, or like the tape recorder in The Evil Dead. Stay away from it, but they don't. Then they all get hypnotized and it goes 1 week later. Like that was enough of a setup that we don't get to see a week of them getting messed with by Slender Man. Just cut straight to them getting picked off. This will play into this movie's problem of having things missing from it. For the most part, the actual goddamn horror. So after it cuts to a week later, we return back to Skew, and the characters are all walking and acting normal when suddenly they remember what movie they're in.
Have you been having nightmares? Have you? About what?
It's nothing really, it's just that video.
While watching that moment, I was like, wow, that's like the exact scene from the start of A Nightmare on Elm Street, which is a perfect time to bring that up and why it's an amazing movie. So, before we get into the exposition dump scene where everyone has been experiencing similar nightmares, we have a clear intro of who or what our villain is. Following is the kind of threat he is, someone who attacks you in your dreams. Then the following scene is our lead addressing her nightmares, and then there's a hint that everyone else has been having the same nightmares, but they all pass it off.
It was the worst nightmare I ever had. You wouldn't believe it.
Matter of fact, I had a bad dream last night myself.
So what'd you dream?
Forget it, Tina. The point is that everyone has a bad dream once in a while. It's no biggie.
Then, in another scene, once the characters start sharing the details, they all make the connection.
Fingernails? That's amazing you saying that. That made me remember the dream I had last night.
What'd you dream?
I dreamed about a guy in a dirty red and green sweater.
Nancy, you dreamed about the same creep I did.
All this warning, and then our main character dies, and then the story is set in motion. That was all still the setup. In Slender Man, they watch two Slenders, one man.
You know how they have POV porn? Yeah. This one's from our perspective. I don't want to.
Do you think she likes that?
Oh my god! No. Oh god, once you see it, you just can't unsee it.
And then a week later, it's like a nothing setup for no story. And then a bunch of people just vanish, and then this girl gets eaten by a tree, and they live happily ever after. I don't remember much of the details. Leave me alone. I was stoned when I watched it.
What is this stupid video?
But this brings me to the scariest part of the movie.
Bless you. You know, did you know that pilgrims used to think sneezing meant you were expelling demons? What? That's why I never sneeze. I want to keep them all. In my soul. Your soul. If I had one.
So, the dialogue in this movie sounds like it was written by an alien. No, not an alien, like an alien.
What client?
I cannot tell you, it's confidential.
Oh, come on, why not?
No, I can't. Anyway, how is your sex life?
This film was written by David Berkey, and the only film of his I've seen in his filmography is Gacy. And when it comes to a modern day horror film where kids mess around with something on the internet, it all sounds like an old man trying to write dialogue for hip young kids. Was this the case? Yep, just listen to this riveting dialogue.
You could stay one age forever, what would it be?
Easy, 21.
No way. I'd be 10.
Oh no, 10 was the worst, man. I say 30, it's like the height of sophistication. You?
What about the age we are right now?
I'd like to stay like this forever.
Seriously? I mean, what's wrong with you?
Okay, fine. The age we are right now, but we could all live in a house together.
Okay, fine. But without Ren, though?
Yeah, obviously, that goes without saying.
Super funny, like, whoa.
See what I mean? An alien wrote this.
But son of a bitch told me that I would get it within 3 months. I saved them bundles. They're crazy. I don't think I will ever get it. They betrayed me, they didn't keep their promise, they tricked me, and I don't care anymore.
And just getting to the exposition dump of who Slender Man is, I just gotta say, Paranormal Activity, you can just Google search all of the info you want on the main thread. Slender Man actually comes from the internet, so we can have an exposition dump right at the start of the movie. And how would you summon Slender Man in his first big theatrical feature film debut? Maybe one of the girls gets access to the dark web, goes through some fucked website, some unknown force sends them a link that they dare not click on. Oh no, they just Google search Slender Man and there's a comment saying summon him.
All right, here it is. How to summon Slender Man.
Guys, we so have to do this. We actually don't. Actually.
So I don't know if this is how you summon Slender Man in the 10 years of fan fiction, but who filmed these shots? Did Slender Man? Where did he get a drone from? And also, these instructions.
Those who hear the 3 bells toll, accept his invitation. When you hear the first, you must close your eyes, keeping words unspoken. If one wants to closed and mind you must listen closely, for they are soft and distant. Those who hear the 3 bells toll, eyes still closed and only once you heard the 3rd.
Did Slender Man write these and edit the video? Does Slender Man oversee the editing of this video to guarantee that the instructions and ritual were accurate? What if your internet cuts out halfway through and then the video just stays on buffering? 1 week later.
Have you been having nightmares?
Have you?
And so far, all we've seen is stock footage from the end of the film, some CGI shapes. And then this girl vanishes, and the first death can't even be shown, or even the first sighting of Slender Man. This is the time to show him, and we are 14 minutes in. In this day and age of jump scares, I miss some good old-fashioned fucked up ideas. Speaking of jump scares, this movie's only gimmick fails if you have the sound turned down. Why is it in horror movies these days require that you turn the volume up? The effects of Slender Man himself are some of the cheapest I've ever seen, to the point where they look as bad as fan photoshops. And that's not saying that fan edits are even bad, but a budget of $28 million? This is a 2018 movie, and we have 10 years of Slender Man photoshops, video games, and fan films that look a million times better than any of the effects in this movie. There's one issue with the effects in this being lame and direct-to-DVD looking. The other is Slender Man in this is so unspecific. Nothing about it screams new movie horror icon. It's like making a Doom movie. Yeah, you got a BFG and Mars, but where the fuck are the demons? It's just like blue Resident Evil. And while looking at the behind the scenes footage of this film, I noticed he wasn't even wearing a traditional black suit. It was like this cool looking alien gross skin thing that looks like a suit. Never got a clear look at it, and they even got the guy who played Mama, Crooked Man, and the leper from It. Looks like a shitty visual effect. $28 million. So, in the minimal amount of research I've put into this movie, I know that there's, well, pretty much all the violence and gore teased in the trailers was cut out, so I understand that this isn't the complete movie. But from what I can tell in the trailers, when there is violence, Slender Man is absent, implying the characters are under his control and harming themselves. I guess. But if you cut out the gore and Nightmare on Elm Street, Freddy is still an intimidating and unique looking monster, and Slender Man is just nothing special. But something I noticed is all of the trippy montages actually have good footage, and with a budget of $28 million, did all the money go into these quick flashes? Or is all of this just stock footage they got from something else? And so, after all this, I'm just wondering, who was this movie made for? And obviously this movie has terrible ratings, but just in case someone liked it, let's just go beyond the Rotten Tomatoes score and look at the actual positive reviews. Don't understand the negative reviews. Slender Man was a solid horror, and well worth watching. For #scary, #movies film slate, #lovers, the #film, #Slender Man just came to Americas, #cinemas, #yesterday, lovey smile face. Some people #believe Slender Man is real. I cannot #judge them, but I do not believe it is real. What do you think? Amazing movie, best movie I've ever watched. I wish I could just watch it over and over again. Well, I guess it's not all bad. I guess the movie found some people that found enjoyment out of it. And hey, movies are just an artistic expression. And it doesn't matter what my opinion is, or other people's opinions. It's all made for the enjoyment. Film is a creative medium. Except for this movie. This was a shameless cash grab. And this fan film is 1 million times better. Everyone go watch this fan film. Link in the description.
Well, boys and girls, that sure was frightening fettuccine of the cheapest kind. However, the chilling night is far from over. The darkness is rich with goblins, ghouls, and ghosts. What is that? I hear the deathly gasps. Could this be a poor mortal on his last breath? A skeleton's cough? Or a failing franchise clinging to life? Back to the graveyard we go. Any hidden gems we must know. Next on our list. Oh no.
The second spooky special of the night, Paranormal Activity The Marked Ones from 2014, which is like taking the Paranormal Activity template and getting Jake Paul to make it.
How about those 1 a.m. plate breaking?
Oh, I love it, baby!
Or Logan Paul.
We're moving in to the new Team 10 house.
Stop being a pussy. 3, 2, 1, go! Shit.
God, dude, I can't believe you actually went through with it.
Man, you get your ass up there and do it, man.
I'm not the stupid one.
So my quick history with the Paranormal Activity franchise. When I saw the first movie, it scared the shit out of me. At that young age, I was the type of moron that would stay up all night watching ghosts caught on camera videos and would scare myself shitless. And when the trailer for the first movie came out, I was like, wow, it's a whole ghost caught on camera movie. What a great idea. And then I saw it and all the ideas were so simple and fucked up that I couldn't sleep for a week. Like, man, the demon has been following her since she was a kid. It was stand at the foot of her bed when she was growing up. And one day the house burnt down. Then she gets dragged out of the bed by nothing, down the hallway to the attic, and then they go up into the attic and find a burnt photo of her as a child. It was so great. Nice little simple scary demon in the house story. So the following year they announced a sequel, and I thought, what the fuck is a sequel? Like, I was more confused than excited. And I thought of what it was going to be in my head. Maybe Katie is in like a mental asylum, and the way they get around the found footage is like security camera footage. Like, that's how my brain worked, justifying a sequel. And then I went to see it, and I was like, wow, it was just the first fucking movie again. And this was before I went to film school, still thought Hollywood was magical. The first movie was held in such high regard right next to the Blair Witch Project for me. But right there, I saw the template. It's like finding out there's no Santa Claus all over again. I walked out of the cinema thinking, oh wow, so the big shocker of the first movie, she gets dragged out of the bed by nothing. But in this one, she gets dragged out of the room by nothing, then she runs back into the room, and then she gets dragged out again. This time, she's like hanging off of the handrail. Spooky. Then the movie ends with some bullshit ritual where the demon was always meant to attack the sister, but then they transfer it to the other sister from the first movie. Oh yeah, because it's a prequel. They set up the events of the first movie. And guess what? Remember how hectic the ghost shit was in the first movie? Well, even more spooky shit happened directly before that. And then this one ends with a mini sequel. What happened after the events of the first movie? Possessed Katie makes her way back to the sister's house and then fucking punches someone to the ceiling. And I was like, what? She takes the baby and then leaves. And for some reason I never registered this moment at the end of the first movie as she has fucking superpowers. Then later I found out this wasn't actually the original ending. Apparently they showed a cut of the original film to Spielberg, and his pitch was, you gotta have the movie end with a sequel hook. Final jump scare. And the original ending was Katie kills the boyfriend, then rocks back and forth in the bedroom for a few days, and then the cops show up after they found his dead body and they like make their way up the steps, and then she walks towards them with the knife all dazed and confused and they shoot her. Perfect ending. A closed loop. No one would ever suspect demon possession. But nah, we got CGI demon face, superpowers. Then they released the trailer for the third movie, and it's another prequel. More demon shit happens to the sisters when they were kids. All these massive demon events prior to the original movie, but never brought up in the original movie. Also set in the 80s, and they're filming on VHS that somehow records 16:9 aspect ratio, 1080p resolution, also VHS tapes that can record for longer than 3 hours, filming overnight so it resembles the first two movies. No, fuck you, so I didn't see it, and I've never watched a Paranormal Activity movie since. Until now. I always remembered they tried to make a spin-off, hoping they'd have their own expanded universe, because you know, Marvel just did it, now everyone has to do it. But what it represented, to me, was what this series should have been from the sequel onwards, an anthology series. Why limit yourself to just the story of Katie and why the demon attacked her in the first one? Oh, it was a cult thing. It was always meant to possess her, blah, blah, blah. They milked that plot so much that there was no mystery or intrigue anymore. But what if every Paranormal Activity movie is just another haunting found footage story? Like, the possibilities are endless. Each movie could be original and come up with its new ideas, but nah. Actividad Paranormal Los Marcados. Same shit, different culture. Straight off the bat, these talented Hollywood screenwriters felt the need to address why the characters are filming all of these events.
This camera's nice. Hey, what's that? See? How much is it? It was about 300. Do you think I could like, you know, record stuff, mess around with it? I want to drop. I like this camera, Dad. I'm serious. All right, just be careful with it.
Like, we're 4 movies into this franchise. We know the only gimmick that these movies ride on is found footage. I would have to take a guess that all of these movies have to cram in that bullshit explanation at the start.
Yeah, it's nice. Yeah. It is high definition. How much is it then?
$250.
I'll just go somewhere else then.
No, I'll give you for 200. But I'll give you this for free.
It's like insulting to have to sit through this setup and then proceed to watch a movie where these kids are still filming in the most ridiculous of circumstances. I don't care why this character has a camera. All I know is that why isn't he climbing the ranks at TMZ? Constantly filming? He can get all the scoops.
What's with the camera, bro? How much was the camera, bro? Well, the camera's nice, bro.
Anywho, so these characters live in some crummy apartment block. They all know each other and that jazz. And oh yeah, along with Taxi Driver and The King of Comedy as the main inspirations for the new Joker movie, we can now add this one to the list. This movie has one of the lead characters spinning around a dumb yellow sign, and then he gets jumped by a bunch of punks. And now I love the Joker more, because not only is it 100% original, it also pays homage to Paranormal Activity, the marked ones. And so, after some creepy spying on the woman downstairs who they think is a witch, she is murdered by this other guy who flees and will return later. They break into this witch's apartment after she's been murdered. They then run into some ghetto gangsters who are related to the murderer, and one of them stole this evil witch book, which then inspires them to spray paint a black mirror, break into a church, and then summon a demon and summon a demon. Honestly, at this point, why discuss the plot further? It's such a by-the-book setup. You're dumb enough to summon a demon, you get what you pay for. But oh no, this isn't the reason for the spooky shenanigans that are about to ensue. As my housemate pointed out while watching this, who's seen more of these movies than I have, that there is an evil cult behind all of this crap, in all the movies. And so, for people like me who know nothing about the garbage, over-bloated lore crammed into these movies, this scene is just to trick me. Alright, so they summoned a demon, that's why everything turns to shit. I remembered from the Paranormal Activity 3 trailer, the girls do the Bloody Mary in the mirror 3 times, so I assumed that was the reason for them being haunted. Nah, cult is behind it all. So anyway, this was the main character, and he is the one who is marked. And then I'd say that this movie proceeds to be a scare fest until the end, when someone has a CGI demon face and eats the camera, but nah. Remember Chronicle from 2012?
Dude, I don't want to do it. Okay, are you ready?
Okay, come on, do it.
Give me a countdown.
I will, I promise. Ah!
Well, that was a found footage movie about kids getting superpowers.
Dude!
Yes, it was the black guy this time.
Was it an accident, Andrew? Andrew?
Anyway, sorry to get off topic. So in this movie, our two leads decide to play some midnight basketball, and the character who's getting affected by the demon suddenly gets attacked by some thugs, and then...
Stop it! Stop!
So this movie becomes a rip-off of Chronicle for a little bit.
Hold on. Are you ready? All right, watch this.
Wait, what? All right.
Just watch. Here, you got me?
Yeah, I got you. What are you doing? What? What the fuck is man?
Oh my god!
His friend puts his videos online and they start getting hits.
Looks totally real. Good job, dude. What FX program you run? All the people that leave comments are always so negative on this shit.
And before this movie starts spending too much of its budget money, they return back to our shitty Paranormal Activity template. And so, horror movies like this would typically use a Ouija board to communicate with ghosts, and through that they welcome the demon into their lives. And to stay upbeat and hip, these fresh, kooky, smart filmmakers went, what's another trademarked kids' toy that these kids can use to communicate with a demon? Oh yeah, Simon.
Anybody there? Oh shit. Oh shit. Did you mess those guys up at the park?
So they go out partying and meet some chicks and they take them back to their apartments. And what sexier place to bang than in the dead witch's house? El Super Hombre forgets his condoms and then leaves this chick in the house all by herself. She gets attacked by the murderer from before, and then they watch the footage back. And then they notice there was a hidden trapdoor. And then they forget the most important rule. And then they see a bunch of Mexican shaman trinkets and voodoo junk, and there's a photo of our superhero character. There's a hex on him, he's a marked one. Then weird stuff starts happening to him, pulls a string out of his eye, becomes a violent dick. They talk to Simon Demon more, whole bunch of stuff happens, including one of the most hysterical moments in horror movie spooky ghost history. Then they have a showdown at this old house, and I'm told that this is the grandmother's house of the sisters from the other movies. She's like a cult leader or something. Anyway, they team up with the ghetto gangsters, and it's time to lock and load, say?
Go smoke these bitches.
I have a theory that while filming these scenes, they had the whole wirework stunt team on standby because, you know, this movie was shot in a weekend. When it came time to film the showdown at the house, someone was like, hey, we still got the stunt team and wire rigs for the rest of the night. Can we use them anywhere? And they went, yeah. Now, as far as creepy imagery goes, I didn't mind some of this showdown. A creepy cult bursting into the house to get ya. Like, some of it worked. Not really. And just when this movie couldn't get any more pointless and stupid, oh boy, it pulls a Back to the Future too. As our character is running through the house and getting attacked, he sees a door with like satanic writing around it. Want to guess where the door goes? You know in the first movie when Katie gets out of bed and like stares at the boyfriend for a little bit, and then she goes downstairs? So old mate in this film goes through a door which makes him time and space travel to the end of the first movie to see what happens when Katie goes downstairs.
What the fuck?
I don't know what this means or added. Oh yeah, and spoilers for that spooky, twisty twist ending, I guess. After seeing this movie, I decided to go back and watch the trailer, because I was wondering how much this trailer would lie to you and tease a better movie. And I was shocked. Almost everything seen in the movie except for the ending is in the trailer. It's like beat for beat, so you don't even need to see this piece of trash. It's all in the trailer. Actually, don't even watch the trailer. This is such a pathetic attempt to jump on the Marvel success with spin-offs. And I said before, these movies should have all been spin-offs. An anthology series. Don't just introduce some demonic element and then ruin it with adding all of this lore and junk backstory. There's so much mystery and now it's boring because there's too much explanation. But hey, movies are just an artistic expression, and it doesn't matter what my opinion is or what other people's opinions are. It's all made for enjoyment. Film is a creative medium. However, this movie was filmed in a weekend and it made some talentless hacks a whole bunch of pocket money. Next, please.
That movie gave me the Heeby Jeebies, boys and girls, when there should have been conventional editing. It hacked, it slashed and butchered the suspense and tone. But nevertheless, the night must go on. The last and hopefully the least of the spooky specials is upon us.
Whoops.
Onward to the cinematic graveyard once again. What will we find? Something with blood and machinery of the slasher kind. Boo.
So, the last entry in the Spooky Specials event is probably the worst one. Leatherface from 2017. Which is like, I don't know. I got no quippy comparison for this one. The only word I have to describe this movie is douchey. So, this movie was really awful, to which I was shocked after watching the other two movies. Something kept telling me that it may be a bit more fun than the other two. Being a slasher, you don't have to try and pretend to be smart with your demonic possession and rules. Just have a villain in a mask that hacks people up? Not the case with this one. They got that wrong too. Now, unlike Slender Man and Paranormal Activity, I'm actually familiar with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre films. To me, the original movie is probably the best horror movie ever made. However, that's a more complicated statement than it sounds. There are horror films that I think are brilliant and so much better made, and they are my actual favorites. But out of the low-budget crudeness of the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, it's the most real, the most uncomfortable, and overall the most horrific. It's a true nightmare and has absolutely zero Hollywood schmaltz, much to the confusion of Tobe Hooper, who thought he was making a black comedy. But thankfully his attempt at black comedy failed, and out of it he made a true experience in terror, which went on to inspire movies such as Alien, believe it or not. But the one element that has ruined the integrity of the original, in my opinion, is Leatherface himself. And what I mean by that, sure, the title says the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but the most terrifying element of the original to me wasn't just Leatherface. It was the entire family. Leatherface was just the muscle. He was thought to be the main antagonist throughout the film, but once the reveal comes that he's just a big idiot and it's the actual family of psychos that keep him on a leash, that's what made it more terrifying. The mental hitchhiker from the start returns to torment you, and the nice old man from the store is actually the one in charge, and they all have you tied to a chair, and they feed your finger blood to their old grandpa that's on the verge of death. But something that the sequels started putting too much stock in was Leatherface himself. I preferred Leatherface being a man-child that was told what to do from the actual sinister evil family. But all of a sudden Leatherface became badass and cute. Like, look at the remake, which I don't mind actually. But Leatherface is the most badass he could possibly be. But the movie accidentally created a way more terrifying character with Sheriff Hoyt. Just the casting of Ali Eremi and his hostile presence makes Leatherface a forgettable aspect of that movie. But whatever, as far as remakes go, that was one of the ones that was more decent. And even to an extent, that prequel as well. But what we have now is one of the biggest messes in movie continuity history. Even worse than The Terminator.
I'm too confused. I don't know if Texas Chainsaw is a remake or a sequel or a remake of a sequel. I'm losing track. I don't even know. No, just keep making them until we're all dead.
Now, I've also seen the Texas Chainsaw 3D, which is very similar to this new one in stupidity and excess. I'm still undecided on which one is worse. Where that movie added too much dumb lore to Leatherface after the events of the original movie, and this one adds too much dumb stuff before the events of the original movie. I think this prequel may be worse, just because there is too much unbelievable junk added to Leatherface's character that does not line up with this Leatherface.
Get away. You damn fool! You ruined the door!
And doesn't give any reason or intrigue to make it any more worthy of existence than the other prequel, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre: The Beginning. But anyway, let's get this over with. I mean, let's get into it. So this movie begins with a flashback, even though it's a prequel already. The Sawyer family is having a birthday party for little old Leatherface, and rather than building up to the family's insanity, they're just like career killers. They have some guy tied to a chair who they think stole their pigs. Verna Sawyer, the mother of everyone, who behaves more like a mafia boss throughout this movie. She's like pressuring little Leatherface to kill this guy with a chainsaw, but he's a scared little kid and he don't wanna. Also, the camera work in this opening is terrible. They keep shoving the camera into everyone's face, which makes it come off as like an artsy dream sequence, which is very jarring, but not in a good way. Not in a Texas Chainsaw Massacre way. The original begins with that opening credits and that weird sound of the camera flash and that noise. Not only is this setting the tone, it's creating a tone that no movie had before. This intro comes off as a rip-off of the third act in the original movie. Also, this guy is a terrible actor.
Why would I go anywhere near your dirty pigs or your filthy family?
Everyone just act crazy. Whatever you think crazy is, just do it. It's like a cartoon. How about the same situation from the original? You don't know what the outcome's gonna be. You're fucked, they're fucked, everyone's fucked. Here you're like, well, Kitty Leatherface is just gonna kill him with a chainsaw and then it's gonna cut to the logo. Oh wait, it subverts your expectations by him not wanting to? So then just a hammer to the head and then it cuts to the logo. This sort of is a perfect representation of what this film will do for the next hour or so. Subvert your expectations, and instead of what you thought it was going to do, it does nothing. It's much like The Last Jedi of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. Anyway, cut to a happy couple driving in a car. They nearly hit a pig on the road, and it turns out to be little Leatherface playing dress up with a pig's head and body. Anyway, this leads to the girlfriend following him to a shed where she falls into a booby trap. Then a bunch of the family members start behaving like one-dimensional villains.
You done good, Jed. Show him.
And they drop a car engine on her? I guess when you have more budget than you should, you have to come up with ways to blow it. And apparently this is one of a long line of murders from the family, and that Sheriff Frost is sick of. And it turns out that this was his daughter. And when he shows up to the crime scene, he is in shambles.
He's there, Hal.
That's my baby in there. I couldn't get to her on top. I'm real sorry, sir. I swear to God.
But once Bathsheba shows up to be a smirky bitch, suddenly his grief turns into a dick measuring competition, and he's not upset anymore.
Send some units over to the Sawyer house. You round up all the miners. I want all of them. You hear me?
You can't do that. You can't do that.
Well, I'll have a warrant that says I can by the time we arrive. You take one of mine, and I'll take all yours, Vernon.
So then he takes little Leatherface away from the family. Cut to 10 years later. So this is where the movie takes a big ballsy risk. A risk that I would say failed horribly. But the creativity of changing up a prequel to add more mystery is admirable. The usual prequel problem is when you know how the events will play out due to the original that was made decades ago. So points to the team behind Leatherface for adding a mystery. Now, how that mystery fails horribly and makes this movie a waste of time. After 10 years since baby Leatherface is taken from the family, we are introduced to a nurse who couldn't wait to start work at this mental asylum.
I've been wanting to come on here for a long time. I think I can help them.
Elizabeth.
Oh.
Moments later, she's attacked by one of the crazies.
Hey, get off me! Let go!
Fuck you, Frankenstein! Wake it up, Pinhead!
I've been wanting to come on here for a long time. I think I can help them.
Elizabeth.
Oh.
Aw, life at the asylum wasn't all magical as she thought it would be. Now, from this moment, up until 20 minutes before the movie ends, you will not know which one of these characters is actually Leatherface. They set up that when the kids are put in the mental hospital, they have their names changed, and that Leatherface was so young that he won't remember his past. It's a guess who the title character is for the whole movie. So, our main players are the natural born killers, Stuttering Billy, and Crazy Fat Ethel. And you're going to want to pay close attention to this character. So, Mama Sawyer shows up after 10 years with a lawyer, and she wants to see her son again. When she's denied, she starts a riot in the hospital, I think, or a riot starts coincidentally. Either way, shit hits the fan, and Honey Bunny and Pumpkin bang in the hallway, and then they escape. Bill finds Fatty and Nursey, and then they all form a gang to escape across town with the nurse as a hostage. It becomes like a Stand By Me with crazy people. There's even a sex scene on top of a dead body. Meanwhile, Sheriff Frost and Deputy Iron Fist are trying to track down the escaped mental patients, and no one knows who the real Leatherface is. Alright, so I'm not going to put any more explanation into the story from escaping the mental asylum up until the big reveal of who Leatherface is. Because put it this way, you wouldn't watch any of this if it was an original movie movie that wasn't tied to this franchise. From just the over-the-top performances of the crazy characters, everyone is a cliche and all you're doing is clocking time until they finally say who Leatherface is. But also, as a Leatherface movie, he isn't in it until the end. So you're not even getting the title character that you went in expecting to see. Imagine not knowing who Bruce Wayne is in Batman Begins until the end of the movie. And so, for the big Leatherface twist reveal, when they first introduced this character, I said, that better be Leatherface because he's meant to be a big idiot. Then they started dropping the hints that it was him. They showed this manila folder and it says bipolar. He's mostly silent except for the occasional grunting sounds. You know, like the original proper Leatherface. But as the plot went on, they kept him in the background and he does nothing. He's just hanging around with the group. And then I called it. This will not be Leatherface. And they're going to keep teasing that it's him, and it's going to turn out to be one of these other characters. That doesn't fit at all. They even have him take this character out to the woods to brutally murder him. That comes out of nowhere. And I kept thinking, nah, red herring. It's going to be this guy then. Even though he doesn't behave like Leatherface at all. And then it's like, great, then the movie just goes off the rails. Once you know who Leatherface is, and it doesn't make sense, all bets are off. This is now Anything the movie. The three of them are running from the cops, so they get out a lightsaber and cut open the belly of this cow, and then all three of them hide in the cow, like they can all fit in this cow. It's like a clown cow. Then when fake Leatherface is shot, real Leatherface is shot in the mouth. Then the car drives off a bridge, and then later on it's raining at night, and then the T-Rex shows up. Then they have a showdown in the barn where Sheriff Frost tries to kill Leatherface. Meanwhile, Universal soldiers are fighting outside. Then they feed Deputy Iron Fist to some pigs, and Hannibal gets away. Then it's back to the house where Mama Sawyer stitches up Leatherface's Frankenstein face. Then he puts on this thing to hold his skin together, and then he chops up Sheriff Frost, and finally he's Leatherface. See? Won't kill at the start, but will now. Character arcs. Then, the nurse escapes through the forest, and Leatherface is chasing her, like in the original. And then the T-Rex shows up again. And then she dies. He uses the chainsaw to knock her head off. Like he couldn't have just sawn it off with the chainsaw. And then he makes the face mask. He's finally the full Leatherface. And then he makes the same realization I did, that this should have been a better origin story. That was Leatherface from 2017. The origin story that added nothing, gave nothing, is nothing. I was thinking while watching this movie, what about the young version of the hitchhiker? Or the old man that ran the store? Where are their young versions? And then to my shock while researching this, we were looking at them the whole time. I kept thinking these characters were the same character. They both look like Matthew McConaughey, and they just act like generic rednecks. They don't behave at all like their original counterparts. Also, while looking this up, these characters at the start, this is the father of Sally and Franklin. Why? It's like Rogue One. We got the guys from the cantina. We got R2-D2 and 3PO on the planet where they should have been on the ship at that certain time. Prequel shenanigans. All this young person casting is the equivalent of Jai Courtney in Terminator Genesis. You didn't even try, did ya? There is this thing currently going around, where if horror film properties are older than 35 years, then their rights go back to the creator or something. Nightmare on Elm Street went back to Wes Craven's estate, and there was a Friday the 13th reboot in development, and that's now been scrapped due to this loophole. But I sort of think this is a good thing. I'm sick of all these old properties getting rehashed and rebooted and re-sequeled and re-prequeled. Even though the new Halloween was decent, I just hate that it exists because it will now spark all of these belated sequels and prequels that ignore the other sequels and prequels. I think it's time these old properties were just put to rest. It's like a new Hercules movie, or Robin Hood, or Tarzan. There comes a time when they're just done. Nostalgia exploitation has just run its course, and this new Leatherface is just another one. There has been plenty in this franchise. This is just one more that no one wanted or cared about. But hey, movies are an artistic expression. It doesn't matter what my opinion is or what other people's opinions are. It's all made for enjoyment. Film is a creative... just ended already.
Well, boys and girls, that brings us to the end of CorderyFX Spooky Specials 2019 edition. There's been tricks and treats, or more so tricks. Tonight you have seen worlds of unimaginable terror, mayhem and carnage, and cheapness. But now, as you return to your regular lives, I will leave you with a quote from one of the greatest horror icons of our time, Bruce Campbell. Movies that are easy to make are hard to watch. Good night, ladies and gentlemen, and remember, That creaking in your closets, that rumbling under your beds, those eyes peering through the window is another uncalled for franchise looking to slaughter your wallets.
That's too much fucking smoke! Sorry, Vincent.
I don't get paid enough for this shit.
Just want to give a massive thanks to Duncan Casey and Richard Jackson for lending their voices for this special. They run one of my favorite YouTube channels, Valverde Broadcasting. These guys cover way more films and news than I do, as well as being way more informative and smarter than I am. Everyone should all go check them out. Go subscribe. Also want to thank one of my favorite subscribers, Marcelo, for helping with the Spanish translations I did in this video, which I then butchered with my pronunciations.
So, paranormal activity is... that already sounds in Spanish. Actividad paranormal. Well, the camera is nice, bro. Ese. I was just telling ese.
So, if you like this video, be sure to drop a like and subscribe. I also have a Patreon, link in the description. If you want to see more big special videos like this, becoming a patron will help take the edge off, while I take more time to edit massive fun projects like these. Thanks for watching.